Well, I have to be honest with you guys. The passage we're looking at this week is a hard one to understand. I even debated about whether or not to even go over this passage with you, because it's one of those head scratchers that whenever you're reading the scriptures, you're always going to come across passages that are a little bit harder to understand, where maybe the story just doesn't make sense, or Jesus says something, it's like, he could not have meant that. There's no way. Like, that just sounds way too hard or way too mean or whatever. That just doesn't sound like Jesus. Well, that's one of those passages today in Luke chapter 9, verses 57 through 62. We see Jesus talking to people in a way that, like, it seems kind of harsh. And also, it seems like, it's like, what gives? It seems like they're giving him pretty honest or pretty good excuses. So it's like, why is he being so harsh with them? I remember where we've been so far in Luke chapter 9. So far, it's just been a lot of stories of Jesus' disciples making one mistake after another. Sometimes when we read the Gospels and we read the story of how these men said yes to Jesus, we're kind of blown away with how easily they said yes to him. It's almost like you wonder, like, were they under some kind of magical trance? Like Jesus said, follow me, and they put down their nets and they begin to follow him, or they just leave behind whatever it is and they begin to follow Jesus. And it seems almost mystical, or it's like it could not have been that easy, right? Well, here today what we see is there are going to be three different, it looks like men probably, that Jesus invites to follow him, and they say no to him for various reasons. The passage gets kind of sticky and hard because I think it starts to call me out anyway, for a lot of the times when I try to make up excuses for why I say no to Jesus. Let's get into this passage together and see if we can figure it out. So it starts in verse 57. It says, they were walking along a road, and a man said to him, I will follow you wherever you go. Jesus replied to him, foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. It seems like Jesus is seeing through the motives or the heart of why this guy is saying, I'll follow you wherever you go, because of his response. Jesus does this all the time, not just to us, but to people that he meets along the way in the Bible also. He can see through their motive about why they ask him questions or why they say things to him, and we can always tell because he gives them the correct response. And this guy says, hey, Jesus, I'll follow you. And Jesus says, well, actually, I'm homeless. So it seems like, from what you're talking about, it seems like you have an agenda of maybe like a palace or being part of a conquering army or ruling at my side. But it's like, that's not my agenda. So Jesus is being very honest with him and saying, like, that's not where I'm going. And sometimes that's why we say yes to Jesus, but it's always like, well, Lord, I'll say yes to you as long as you give me the stuff that I need. Like, as long as you take care of my finances, as long as you take care of my grades, I'll say yes to you. And you're like, no one would ever do that. It's like, really? Well, how many of us, we're like gung-ho about Jesus until we, all of a sudden don't have enough money, or we start to fail at school, or we start to lose friends, or we start to lose the stuff we thought we would get by following Jesus. Some of us, we say yes to him because we think he's going to give us stuff, or give us people, or give us whatever it is, give us respect. And Jesus sees through that, and he says, you know what? We're on two different agendas here. We're on two different paths. A second man comes up to Jesus. Verse 59, Jesus said to another man, follow me. I love this. Jesus he invites him. He invites all of us. He says, follow me. But the man replied, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. Seems like a good excuse. But Jesus said to him, let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God. Man, that seems harsh, right? It's like, Jesus, the guy just wants to bury his father. Well, if you have a study Bible and you look at the little notes at the bottom of the page, what it will probably tell you is that the funeral proceedings, could take up to a year in the ancient times in Jesus' day. Like, someone could die and they have their first funeral, and then they would have a second funeral up to a year later. And it seems like that's what this guy is talking about. He's saying, well, I need to kind of stick back home and oversee this year-long process. And And so basically he's asking for a time extension. It's like, hey, I'll do it, but first I need a little bit more time. It's kind of like, hey, I know the paper is due, but can I have another month to get it done? It's like, no, it's due right now. And that's kind of what Jesus is saying. Like, my invitation is for you right now. And some of us, Jesus has asked you, he said, hey, will you follow me? And our answer to him has been, well, I'll do it, maybe later. Maybe once I have a family and I want to take my kids to church or something like that. Or maybe it's like, I'll follow you, Jesus, but I got like a list of sin that I want to do first. I have some things that I want to experience, some things I want to do, and I know if I say yes to you, I have to say no to those things. And so we say yes. It's like, Jesus, just give me a little bit of time to go out and get this stuff done, and then I'll come back to you, and I'll ask you to forgive me, and then we'll be all good. Does that sound like a good plan, Jesus? And Jesus is saying to us, like, no, my invitation, like, I'm asking you today. I'm not asking you for a year from now or 5 years from now. I'm asking you right now, will you follow me today? And then a third man, in verse 61, says, still another said to him, I will follow you, Lord, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family. Jesus replied, no one puts a hand to the plow and who looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God. It seems like this is a perfectly good excuse. Jesus, I'll follow you. Just let me go back and say goodbye to my family. And then Jesus' response to him is like, no, I need someone who's going to be focused on the mission that I'm giving them, not worried about what anyone else is going to worry about or think of them, but I need someone who's just going to say yes to me first. Now, in everything we do, it's all about obedience to Jesus. It's never instead of obedience to Jesus. And it seems like that is what this particular man is doing. It's like, you know what? I'd like to do this, Jesus, but first I need to do this instead. And that is kind of the struggle, I think, for a lot of us we've already said yes to Jesus, but it's always like, but Jesus, I kind of need to go do this thing also. It's like, I need a little bit of you as I go and do this other thing also. And Jesus is like saying, hey, whoa, hit the brakes. If you say yes to me, it's saying yes to me all of the time. In all of the places you have to go. Like how different would this story have been if he was like, okay, Jesus, yeah, I'll follow you. That sounds great. And then he's like, but Lord, let's go and can we go? Will you bless my family? Come with me. Can we go do this together? But it seems like he's saying to Jesus, like, yeah, I'll do it, but you stay here, and I'm going to go back here, and then I'll come back to you. It's like I just want a little bit of you. I'm gonna kind of put you over here in the margin of my life while I go do the other important stuff that I want to take care of. And Jesus is like, no, bring me with. And I think that is also an invitation for a lot of us. We've said yes to Jesus. And maybe it was 5 years ago, 3 years ago, a month ago, and we said yes to following him. And it's not just a one-time, like, well, 5 years ago I said yes to following Jesus. Every day we get up and we say, Jesus, will you help me follow you today? I want to bring you with me into all the things that I have to do today. Whether that's the TV shows I choose to watch, the Christmas gifts that I ask for, whatever my plans for the future, the decision I have in front of me. Jesus, I want to bring you into that decision also. I'm not going to leave you off to the side while I go take care of this other stuff. So I think this passage, as I began to just look at it more and more, it's hard, not because Jesus is being hard, but it's because it's like we do these things all the time. We give these excuses to Jesus all the time. We always have a good excuse for saying no to him. Or like, just wait a second, Jesus. And Jesus calls us out on our excuses. And now catch this. It's not because he's trying to be hard on us or because he's trying to be mean to us. It's actually because he's really good to us. He knows that our life is so much more difficult, so much more painful when he's not with us in it. And he wants to come along with us. And he wants us to come along with him. He's not being hard on them because he's out to get them or catch them or say, ha, I told you. But it's because he knows that he's good for them. And he's asking us to trust him, to bring him with, to have him come along. I hope you remember that as you go into Thanksgiving break, as you go off into holidays, whatever the case may be, bring Jesus into every conversation, into every shopping trip, into every decision about your future, and trust him that he is good and he is worthy of you saying yes to him and to follow him.